one more minute and then repeat it up.
Oh, we are so quiet.
Hello, Luke. Luke just sent a nice hello.
Do you know Luke?
No, it just popped up. I'm like, oh, how nice.
Yeah,
How
there
nice
are
of
some
David.
chats coming in, so now and then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Robert. Oh, and Kat. Kat's on.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kat. I know Kat. Okay. Katrina.
All right, I think it is time now. So let's get into it and let's start. Good afternoon, everyone. And I think for some of you, good morning, and I just learned good evening, maybe. And thank you very much for joining us in this webinar on female leadership challenges organized by Human Synergistics Franco Bellex. Let me introduce myself. My name is Marie. I work with Human Synergistics Germany as an account manager and a workshop coordinator. And I have the great pleasure to stay with you this afternoon to moderate this webinar. Before we start, I would like already to thank very much Dino Ragazzo and Valeria Kovenberg, who are managing directors of HS Franco Bellex office. I think, Valeria, we're going to hear you later on during the Q&A. Dino, you're going to stay in the backstage. But in any case, thank you very much both for your efforts and organizing this event. And personally, it's always a pleasure to work with both of you. So today's topic, well, basically today we're going to focus on two key topics. The first one, obviously, is the challenges faced by women in leadership positions or who wish to access leadership positions. And indeed, in most countries, we can see that those leaders position, top senior positions are still mostly occupied by men. And we tend sometimes to attribute a different effectiveness to female leaders, as we tend actually to recognize and attribute different characteristics and different styles of leadership based on gender. And for instance, male leaders will be recognized, viewed, and expected to be the one being in command, to lead people, to focus really on tasks. When on the contrary, female leaders are more perceived to be people-oriented, team cooperation, team coordination-oriented, and being the one sort of nurturing and taking care of. So does it really make sense actually to have this genderization of leadership? And shall we talk about a male style of leadership, a female style of leadership, and try to figure out which one is the more effective? Or isn't it more interesting, maybe and more relevant to broaden the topic a little bit and just talk about the different, let's say, skills that a leader can have in order to positively, here at HS, we like to say constructively, impact the others around them and therefore be considered as effective leaders. And this will be actually our second area of focus. And I dare say with the current pandemic and the urge for organizations to be resilient, find a new normal, a new way of doing things, the role of senior leaders has been brought into the spotlight again, and a lot of people are paying a lot of attention again to how to develop their leadership team. In order to help us to address those topics, we are very glad to welcome and have with us highly loved speakers. I will, of course, introduce them, but already I would like to thank them a lot for the time and for kindly accepting our invitation to share their experience with us. We are very happy to have them here. So basically, the webinar will last an hour and will be split in three main parts. The first one would be, let's say, more theoretical to some extent, as we'll focus on the different findings and studies about female leadership. The second part, which will be a bit longer, will be more, let's say, a live coaching session, and I'm kind of excited personally about it. For which we'll benefit from the experience of 5 women leaders who are with us today, and also from the practice of a highly experienced coach. And finally, we'll finish with a Q&A during which you will be able to exchange with the speakers, ask questions, etc. So to make sure that the session will run smoothly for all the audience and all the speakers, actually, your microphones will be off. We will turn them on actually during the Q&A. If you've got any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat, and I will be happy to give you the mic during the Q&A. And of course, if you've got any questions, technical issues whatsoever, feel free to reach out to myself or to Dino Ragazzo into the chat as well. We'll keep an eye on it and do our best to help you with support. Well, if this is all clear and set, then I'm happy to start and to give the microphone to our very first speaker. So Dr. Cheryl Boglowski, who is an expert in research design and methodology, as well as measurements and statistics, and who is part of human synergistics research and project development team in the US. So hello, Cheryl. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you,
Marie. Thank you, Marie. Lovely to be here and among all my esteemed colleagues.
Great.
My purpose here is to present some background research and introduce the approach that human synergistics takes to leadership and leadership development. So what I would like to do first is, oh, well, actually, I thought I had it up. Here it is. And this is slide one I need. Okay, I need to present some interesting findings concerning leadership regarding human synergistics materials. One of the
I think we lost Cheryl.
We lost Cheryl. Okay. So unfortunately, it seems that there is a small technical issue. Hopefully, Cheryl will be back. It's the third time we are connected together. This never happened before, of course. So basically, the topic that Cheryl will talk about is actually to give us more insight about the studies and findings on female leadership. What do we say usually around that topic? How their effectiveness actually is perceived. I think she will also provide us with some further insights about, again, this genderization of leadership. And we look forward to have her back on track with us. Sorry, I'm checking on the other screen at the same time whether I can reach out to her. And if she cannot make it right now, then I would suggest to actually jump to the second, because we have a tight time schedule. So I would suggest to jump into the second part and maybe get back to her presentation after. We will give her just a couple of minutes to see whether she can make it. And let's say in 1 minute, then we will do something else.
You would think that one of us could just have a joke about this. We're all trying to think of it, right? We're all trying to come up with a joke, right? So I assume everybody's watching is filling in their own joke about this never happens when we meet face to face. People don't just disappear. Sometimes we wish they would. So everybody will fill in.
You can think of a lot of things. What's happening in the US? I mean,
how long do you have, Petri? I'll tell you.
Well, till the 15th of January, I think.
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I haven't looked at my watch in the last 5 minutes. I can't tell you what's happening. It's something changed in any case.
Oh, yeah.
But it looks like she's cut off.
Yeah, so I would suggest to jump into the next part of the webinar, and then we will catch up with her afterwards, unfortunately. So apologies for that. It's part of the new normal, to have some technical issues with connection. I think we are all used to this by now, and we will deal, of course, with that. We will jump into the next part of the webinar, which is actually this live coaching session. The other purpose of Cheryl's presentations was also to introduce a tool that we use at HS to measure leadership effectiveness. We call it Leadership Impact. It would have been interesting to hear before about this tool. But again, it's just something that will come later on. And now I'm very happy to welcome for this coaching session our 5 guests. Well, would you mind maybe Fabienne, Juliana, Sigrid, Petri, and Kathleen to kindly introduce yourselves first? Let us know about your job, your company, maybe some initiatives you're taking part in around leadership. And I think one of the points we had for you as well was to talk about some leader figure who maybe inspires you or had inspired you, male or female, of course. I don't know, Sigrid, you're the first one on my screen, so if you don't mind to start, please.
Okay, hello. I'm Sigrid. I'm from Belgium. I work in Belgium for a national association that is called Fitofar, and we're an association for crop protection in agriculture. So that's I do science communication about pesticides, which is difficult because it's a world of polarization, but it's very interesting. And this year I also participate in the Homeward Bound project. And the Homeward Bound project is an international leadership program for women in STEM, in science. And we receive online courses on visibility, communication, on climate change and science. And it's a 1-year course. And the end of this year, we were supposed to go to Antarctica with the 80 women that follow the course this year. And actually, I was supposed to be exactly at this moment in Antarctica, but due to COVID, we are not there. And we continue the course and we hope to be in Antarctica next year. But the female leadership initiative, Homeward Bound, is really interesting to get our female leadership skills really very, very up to date.
I apologize, I lost internet access.
All good, all good. Thank you, Cheryl, for being back. So we just
I'm so sorry. I can't believe it. I'm sorry. How would you like me to proceed, Marie?
It's all good. We just decided to jump to the next part and start with the coaching and do your presentation after if you find it.
Okay, so, thank you. Sorry, I am so sorry.
All good, thank you. Thank you very much, Sigrid, for your presentation. Sorry. Petri, if you would like to be the next one, please.
Yes, of course, Petri Mast. I'm working for a company called Sibelco. It's a Belgium global operating company. It's a company that is active in minerals for really, let's say, all kind of application. And I'm heading the technology and innovation department there. Technology and innovation, you could see that as the R&D facility. If I look, let's say where I come from and what I've been doing, I've been always in what you would consider a business-to-business environment, and typically, I would say a male-dominated environment. To be very honest, I'm used to it, so I would almost say I probably work best with this kind of environment. So I think that is also one of the things that you learn by developing yourself is how do you best position yourself and what is a good way of working. Maybe just coming back to, let's say, female leadership, I think the most important thing that from a female leadership perspective is the fact that I strongly believe that being a woman is a strength and not a weakness. And I think that is something that every woman should know for herself also. It's not per definition that is something a weakness. Yeah, there are differences. That's diversity, and that's a strength that you can build on. And I've been trying to build on that during my whole working career. I just want to make one comment on let's say, one of the people that has helped me a lot in my career. It was a commercial director that was working in France when I went to France for being, let's say, a sales account manager. Basically, that person, was convinced that a woman in those kind of functions worked much better than men in those kind of function. while I was just more or less turned down for such a function in Germany because as a woman, you could not do a sales manager's role and you could not take out customers. That was typically not done. And I'm talking here about more than 20 years ago, so be aware of that. But the French commercial director said, you know, I really want women in those kind of functions, and diversity will only strengthen my team. And I think for me, that is a very, very good example of leadership. And I will always remember that one as being very important for me and for my development.
Great, thank you very much, Petri. And hopefully this is something we're going to get the chance to talk about and come back later on during the discussion or during the Q&A. But thank you, happy to hear it. Kathleen, you're the next one on my screen. If you could please introduce you in a few words.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everyone. Privileged to be here as well. So my name is Kathleen de Smet. I'm heading up, and in the Agile world, that's being called Super Circle Lead, heading up within ING Belgium, the Client Services Department for daily banking, and I'm serving the business clients ranging from self-employed, micro companies, mid-corp companies, and institutional clients. And next to that, I'm also happy to serve on a couple of boards, which gives me a whole different insight into things. I will say from a perspective of inspiring leadership, one example I really like to look at is the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. I think both in her types of communication, the way she the topics she dares to tackle, the way she tackles them, pretty much inspiring as far as I'm concerned. And I think she's absolutely inspiring for me.
Great, thank you very much, Kathleen. It's nice to have you there and to learn from you. Thank you. Juliana, you're the next one.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, everyone. Hello, my name is Juliana. I am the managing partner of Human Synergistics Romania, the company, Human Synergistics Romania. I had the privilege to start in my country the discussions about the organizational culture 19 years ago, when this was not a topic. And I would say this is where my leadership abilities goes most. In terms of philosophy, I think we don't need a title to be leaders, because looking around everyone is performing a leadership role at home with our children, in small teams, or if we have ambitions or missions at societal level. So I would say we all are in a way leaders, and our interactions are the most good example of this. And I'm so much looking forward to spend this hour with you.
So we are. Thank you so much, Juliana. Glad to have you here. And finally, Fabienne. Bonjour, Fabienne. Would you mind to introduce yourself as well, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Fabienne Pierrot. I'm the finance director for European finance director for a division within a company called Thermo Fisher Scientific, which is providing goods, instrument, consumable, reagent to the big pharma company. We are 75,000 within the world, so very, very big company. Yeah, I've got within my team 110 employees, half men, half women, and spread over 8 different countries in Europe. Like Petri, I've worked a lot in a male environment, just because in science you have a lot of male and a lot more than female. So I've been used to work with them, and I never saw the fact of being a woman as a drawback. I always felt that I was part of the leadership team, and with my female quality, or not female quality, but I never felt it as a drawback. What I would say is that it was even men that provide me, or that gave me the opportunity to grow within the company. So yeah, I never had any issue to work with them. I'm also part of what we call the Women Employee Resource Group, which is a membership within our company, which is promoting women within the company and enables them to develop, to grow. And I'm a very active member of that. I'm very keen on having managers growing within the company. If I want to speak about some female leaders that could inspire me, I'm coming back very early in the age. One of the really famous women that I would admire is Marie Curie. So you may know her because she discovered radioactivity, but it's not for that I'm really, that I find she's really inspiring. It's mainly because she had really an anger and really a strong belief that radiology on the first, during the First World War on the battlefield would save a lot of life. And she made it, and she could convince all the men around her that were against that it was a good solution. So she was very, very, again, eager to bring her solution. And that's why I find her very inspiring. Happy to be there with you today to discuss about female leadership.
Great, thank you very much. Happy to have you there. And yes, a woman who chased her dreams and finally eventually achieved them. That's true. Well, so here's going to be the task. So basically, you will have to talk about a specific. Yes, Stuart.
I wonder if it would be okay, Marie, and I'll do whatever you say. I now that we have Cheryl back, I think it might ground a little bit what we're doing if we could have her talk a little bit about the circumplex. But if you decide that you'd prefer to go ahead, that's okay with me too. It might ground it a little better since she's back, but whatever you say goes.
Thank you. I was thinking of it too. Now that we start with the exercise, I would suggest you keep going with this one. And I think then it will still make sense to connect with Cheryl's presentation, I guess. So thank you very much. You're on mute, Stuart.
Before you give them the task, can I talk a little bit about what I'm going to be doing, and then you can give it?
I was about to give you the mic and to introduce you. Don't worry, it's on the plan. So just basically the task is going to be the following for you, our 5 guests. That would be to talk about a specific topic and exchange together for 5 minutes. And Stuart Simon, who is with us today, will then coach and debrief you using what we call the Cape Cod method. So Stuart is basically a highly experienced coach and Gestalt practitioner, and he's also co-director of coaching at the Gestalt International Study. So Stuart, can you tell us about the Cape Cod method, please, before we start?
What I'd like to say first is a number of our women leaders talked about the fact that we can learn from each other, men and women, and that certainly is true for me. The person who had the most influence and will always have had the most influence on my professional career is a woman named Sonia Nevis, who was my mentor for 30 or 40 years. I can rarely talk about her without tears in my eyes. We lost her 4 or 5 years ago, but she was a fairly well-known internationally psychotherapist, coach, and organizational consultant. And she embodied remarkable ability to be both relational, connected, supportive, as well as being one of the toughest people I ever knew. Not one of the toughest women, one of the toughest people I knew. And her ability to integrate that kind of relational ability, but being able to fight for what she believed in, I aspire to and don't imagine that I will ever achieve, but it's still a guiding light for me. I'm going to be, you're going to be giving, Marie, these group of women leaders a task. And the task is really as simple as asking them to have a conversation about something. I'm going to be using what we call the Cape Cod model. It's a brilliant name. The name comes from the fact that the Gestalt International Study Center is located in Wellfleet, Cape Cod. I myself am located in Boston, Massachusetts. And though I could probably delightfully talk about the Cape Cod model for an hour or two, and at least I wouldn't get bored, I'm going to give you just a brief description. That intervening from the Cape Cod model is designed. We all know that feedback and giving feedback is one of the more complex and difficult things that any leader does, male or female, and that everyone talks about it and everyone looks at it, and success with it is at best there's a modicum amount of success that people have with giving feedback. Books and articles, Harvard Business Review in April 2019 spent a whole section on why feedback fails. And so we're all trying to get better at it, and that includes women leaders. I'm going to be using a particular feedback model called the Cape Cod model. And the orientation of the Cape Cod model is not that we go looking for what's wrong, because most of us by now know that if you simply tell somebody that they're doing something wrong, it's not particularly effective at getting them to do something else. The Cape Cod model takes that a step further, and as a Gestalt approach, begins by looking at either the individual, or in this case, the small impromptu team that we've created here, and looks at what is. In other words, what are they doing? As opposed to what are they doing wrong? What are they doing that's successful? And even these group of women leaders who have never been a team before, after 5 or 10 minutes, they will have created their own culture. It may be a brief culture. It will certainly break apart by the end of this webinar, but they will have created their own team. And I don't mean you won't have connection with each other, but this particular meeting will end. Nonetheless, you will have created your own culture, your own habits. And as a Gestalt practitioner of the Cape Cod model, my job is going to be to notice what is and what you are doing as a way of looking at how you're being successful, and how, if you stay limited to that particular approach, it may stop you from doing other things. Not unlike an athlete who might be very competent with his or her right hand or dominant hand. If they're left-handed, dominant hand, left-handed, they can be successful, but only in a limited way over time if they don't develop other skills to go with it. So that's the approach the Cape Cod model takes. Looks at what is, why that represents some level of success, and how building from that can create more success. And the entire intention there is to engage in a relational way that doesn't stimulate defensiveness. We all know about the fight, flight, or freeze response that gets triggered when you criticize somebody. It's just so easy for people to feel criticized when you give them feedback. So that's a very brief description of how I will be approaching this. The proof of whether it will be the least bit helpful will be from Petri and Kathleen and Juliana, Sigrid, and Fabian, not from me. Okay? So with that, we will instruct them of what they're going to do. We will ask them to have about a 5 to 10 minute conversation. I will hide my video, and I assume you will too, Marie. So just the group of women leaders will be on the screen. Not unlike if they were in real life as a consultant, I would be standing back, letting them have the floor. And I hope to represent some of what we believe leaders can do to support people, by support teams and individuals through the feedback and how we give the feedback. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Marie.
Great. Thank you very much, Stuart, for this introduction. And thank you for being here as well, despite the early hours. By the way, we are really lucky to have you and benefit from experience.
Coffee helps.
Right? So the scene is set, I guess. I will give you the topic you will have to discuss during 15 minutes. As Stuart mentioned, everyone will have the microphones off and the camera off. I will turn mine off in a couple of seconds. And so the topic we would like you to exchange is about what skills, in your opinion, does a female leader need in order to be successful? So you will have 15 minutes. It's 1:30 precisely. I will pop up again in 15 minutes when it's done. And please, now the scene is yours. Discussion and exchanges can start.
Okay, thank you, Marie. I think it's up to us to start the discussion. Maybe just by kicking it off, I have a strong belief that the skills that a female leader needs to be successful, I would say, are the same that a male leader should have. I mean, let's not make that difference. I think what the most important part that I think is additional for women is really the belief that we are not, well, that we are, let's say, at equal level as men. Because I think what I see typically with women is that if you approach a woman saying, hey, would you like to do that? Then the first question that woman ask, oh yeah, but I don't know for sure whether I can do it. Will I be able to do so, and so forth. Ask a typical man, oh yes, of course, and off he goes. So for me, I think that is the main difference that I see, at least in let's say the people that I lead, is the main difference. And I think the belief of being equal, or at least equal, is for me the most important thing for women leaders and women in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I have, sorry, Fabienne, would you like to go first?
No, go.
Fully agree with Petri. I think the skills are the same. The assets are probably different. So maybe we can go to the assets on what we can bring indeed in terms of what we can do differently, what we can add to the group. And I will throw in a first one maybe, is that I think we need to absolutely, and it probably goes a bit into the direction again of what Petri said before, is knowing that really every opinion, even if it's a different opinion, every opinion matters. How about that?
Yeah, I agree with both of you that in most cases, it's true that women, especially when you have a job description for an open position, they will say, well, I only tick 50% of what is required, so I can't go. Whereas I can see that within my team, a man, even with 30%, he says, yes, I go, I'm sure I can do it. So definitely I would agree with you, Petri. Where I think we can, where I think a female leader is really successful or needs to be, to work on, is to be agile in working in a male environment with her female assets. Because whatever we can say, there are some leader skills that are common to women and leader skills that are common to men. And most of the time, what I can see is that women, as you said, they are too shy to go up front or too shy to take their place in the board with the different males or whatever. I think where we need to improve and what really make us really efficient is to be able to bring our skills, such as influencing, such as developing, such as showing and indeed influencing rather than asking, and bring that into the, I would say, the codes that are required or the requirements that are done by male leaders, so that we can bring our assets and come to an end and convince them with our own assets. So these agilities that women have to work in a male environment will make really a difference between female leaders that are efficient and female leaders that are not efficient, where they just stay on their own and do not use, I would say, the tools and the codes that the men are using to come to an end and to come to where they want to go to.
This will be an easy conversation if we agree, if everybody agrees. I think as well that the normal skills that a male leader and a female leader need to have to be a leader is to listen to people and to take decisions, to be decisive. That's the same for both of them. But indeed, females lack a bit of boldness, a bit of visibility. And I think that's where most, not most, but many female leaders should work a little bit. That's also what I see in the network that we have of the Homeward Bound leadership program, because it's a network of more than 500 ladies now, and we see that most of them have a bit are afraid to be visible and to step out and to share their knowledge and to show that they are an expert and that they are a leader. So I guess that we can maybe it's also the lack of role models. If they see more females in leadership positions, that they can relate more, that it's easier for them to show that they can that they can do this. So maybe more female role models are necessary, but I think we're on a good way with the New Zealand Prime Minister or the Vice President elect in the United States, or
be careful, eh?
or many ladies that are more visible now. So I think a skill that is necessary to be more developed for female leaders is visibility and boldness.
Yeah, and as I was saying initially, you don't need a title to be a leader, although power should be taken. And maybe this is the domain where female leaders don't have the confidence enough to take the power. So from my personal experience and also from my experience interacting with female leaders, I would say that there are two major words I would use to help them understand how the power should be taken. First of all, I notice it's important to see the relevance of all the things we are doing, because we are doing a lot of things easily and we don't put the real value on them. So it's just like that. Oh, that was easy. And it's important to be aware about the value we are adding in the things we are involved in, men or women. So it's not, but this is more related to women leadership style. So first of all, to see all the time the relevance, even of the small things women are involved in. And the second one is the confidence, because this is the weapon we have, basically. Yeah, we have to trust ourselves and to play with confidence this game, because as I was saying, power should be taken and the men are better genuinely to do this. So maybe this is the small area where we have to trust more ourselves, not to work on that, because it's just a matter of trust ourselves as a woman in leadership positions. Otherwise, competency speaking or other skill speaking, I haven't seen in my experience differences. Yeah.
May I just ask something, because I completely agree with what you are saying, but I also see, for instance, that I always find it very difficult to separate whatever I do as what I would consider a leader and what I bring as a woman. I mean, you are the personality that you are, so it's difficult to separate that. And especially, you know, what is the value, or maybe we should say the additional value that we bring to the team. That is, of course, from at least from my own perspective, I mean, it's just a given, you know, it's the personality, the profile that you bring to the table, that is you, and that is what you bring. But I tend to agree with you that and I'm trying not to generalize too much, but I think that typically male are a little bit more, let's say, robust in, you know, not only sitting at the table, but directly, let's say, also expressing what they bring to the table, while we sit at the table and maybe bring it more in the background. I think that is maybe the difference between typical male-female behavior, and it's not that it is per definition a male or a female, but it's the type of behavior that you see happening. So is that what you were trying to pinpoint? Is that the difference, maybe?
Yeah, I'm talking at the behavioral level, of course. I'm not talking about acting roles that are not close to us, just to trust ourselves and behave with trust and with confidence in what we are doing. So it's all at a behavioral level, of course. Personality is a completely different story, and we don't have to be because as we have different personalities, men have different personalities as well. So this is not a topic, and competence is not a topic, because if we are at this position, we have the competencies. So the discussion is for this level up, yeah, because we perform since we are there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just to have the confidence to and to be proud that we are at that level. Yeah.
That's a bit what Kathleen says also, no? Every opinion counts, so we should take all the opinions into consideration, even if they're not as loud as the others. So the diversity of the team, male, women, extrovert, introverts, they all make the good teams, no?
Yes, but we cannot count that men will do this. We have to do this.
Yeah.
It's more close to female behavior. This is done. Already past.
Well, if we had more time, I would I am in fact interrupting you. And if we had more time and you were a team, I would invite you to do that. I would interrupt you. I would give you some feedback, and then I would disappear again and see what you did with the feedback. And we might go on like that if you were a real team for as long as you were scheduled to be together, which we assume could be an hour and a half, but we're limited here today. And so I'm going to do one interruption and one piece of feedback. I will remind the audience that what we talked about, which is probably the most important quality that somebody in my position and leaders can have when they're giving feedback to their teams, is to have a trusting, safe relationship. And I have known you guys for a grand total of about an hour. And we have had very little time to develop any sense of safety and trust. So what I say and how I say it will be limited by context and by your understanding and your trust in me. Nonetheless, we're gonna move forward. My job as a consultant here, as a coach, will be to comment on how you guys have your conversation, not on what you talk about, which is a very important distinction between me and a leader. When a leader is giving feedback to his or her team, most of the time it will be much of the time it will be on strategic outcomes, but nonetheless it will be important for leaders to give feedback on the how they're having the conversation. My feedback will be exclusively focused on how you are having your conversation, and then we'll see if it feels even the least bit helpful to you. Give it our limited time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, and then you get to tell me whether there's anything helpful about that or anything that resonates about that for you, okay? So here's what I noticed as the five of you talked. That one of the things that all of you, and what I want to talk about is the you in the plural, not you Petri or you Sigrid or you Kathleen, but you as a group. My feedback is always given to the group. And as a group, I noticed something. I noticed a couple of things. I'm going to try to refine it down to one. That as a group of 5 women, there was a tremendous comfort in asserting your perspectives. Nobody shied away. Nobody said, I have nothing to say. Nobody said, gee, I don't know how I would answer that. All of you made assertive, clear, descriptive statements given the task at hand. You said them easily, you said them to each other, you waited for each other to finish, and then you delivered a very, very clear answer to the question as you were handed, as it was given to you by Marie, without any hesitation. I assume you folks know that, and you could see how easily you did that. Is that fair to say? Yeah, seems like kind of obvious in a certain way.
Maybe if you allow me a reaction on that, I
Sure.
think the thing that really strikes me is indeed that we let each other talk, you know,
Yes. Yes.
and we listen to all
Yes.
the different opinions. I
You
think,
certainly appeared to. Yes.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
we did.
Well,
Okay, it appeared like,
yeah.
but I think
I can only
think
go
that,
on what's
yeah, yeah.
phenomenologically available to me.
But I think that is something which indeed is striking. At least for now that you have, let's say, given that feedback, I think indeed it is something which is specific. So I really appreciate that
Mhm.
feedback.
Anybody else have a reaction? I don't think I'm saying anything that feels dramatically incongruent with what your experience may have been. Sigrid, were you going to say something? No.
I hope it's normal that people let each other talk and let each other speak. But as we see,
Well, I would like to believe it's normal.
television, as we watch television and we see politicians, and it's not normal. So
yeah,
this is what I prefer.
yeah, I would like to believe it's normal too. But you know, I also like to believe in world peace, and I don't think either one of them are as true as we would like them to be.
I think the fact that it's over video is also different. If we were all in the same room, maybe it would have been a little bit different. Maybe we would have liked to speak more, whatever. Through the video, it's a bit different as well.
Could be. Juliana, Kathleen, any reaction? And then I'm going to give you one little piece of potentially developmental feedback.
No, I'm fine. I totally agree. And I'm pleased to notice your findings about our.
Kathleen, anything you want to say? Does it make sense
I'm
to
good
you
for
what
now.
I said?
Thanks.
Yeah. So I do want to give you, if we had more time, we could play with this. Here's what I started to wonder. And there was a little bit of a shift and a little bit of a noticing in your group about this, that while you all were so crisp and clear in what you were saying, I wondered what it would be like had anybody followed up immediately with a question to somebody who spoke. That what we saw was 5 women who were bold in their assertions in a way that was aesthetic and rich and filled with clear ideas. And I wondered to myself, what would have happened had anybody said, can I ask you a little bit more about that, Juliana? Can I ask you a little bit more about that, Petri? Can I ask you a little bit more about that, Fabienne? Whether that might have begun to expand the conversation. A couple people noticed that maybe it was a little bit missing. There was a comment, gee, maybe we'll all agree with each other. There was a moment where one of you said, well, let me ask a question. But for the most part, what your comfort level was, and again, you have a minimal amount of time. It's not even a little bit of a criticism. But I did wonder whether that might have begun to add to your developing culture, add to your developing competency as a team, if you had begin to ask each other questions, not necessarily challenging, like, why do you think that? But also challenging if you wanted to, or clarification questions. Why do you think that? Or how did you come to that thinking? So it's really a question I have more than anything, because we didn't get time to see how this might play out over time. But that's my feedback for you as a team, is that in this limited way, in the 10 or 15 minutes you got to be together, you as a group very easily say things to each other, articulate clearly your perspectives and why you believe them. And I wonder if it would develop you further if you began to ask each other questions about what you were thinking. So
couldn't agree more, Stuart.
What's that?
And I couldn't agree more with that. And I will say there was definitely a question at the top of the tip of my tongue.
I believe you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you could feel it. You could almost feel like you kind of almost wanted to, I guess you're saying. Yeah. So that's the, I know that Marie and the organizers would like Cheryl to have an opportunity to talk about the human synergistics model. The piece I want to leave you with is that I believe it's so hard to give feedback to individuals and teams, and it's so hard to give feedback in a way that's useful. And one of the things that I think can be helpful from a Gestalt perspective is if we start with what is and see what else may be, as opposed to anything that feels like we're being critical of what's occurred. So I'm going to stop at that. Thank you for letting me be with you. Thank you for letting me give you some feedback. And I will invite Marie and or Cheryl back in.
Well, thank you very much to you, Stuart, and to the five of you, Sigrid, Petri, Kathleen, Juliana, and Fabienne for those exchanges. Wow. I don't want actually to react too much about it because I agree. I think it will be a nice transition to Cheryl's part, who will be able to sort of build on what you just mentioned, Stuart, and on what just happened with her presentation. Some technical, let's say, hints, as you may expect, we will probably do, let's say, a 5-10 minutes maximum overtime due to the technical issue we had at the beginning. So maybe we'll finish more on 2, 10 past 2, but I will make sure that this won't be too much of it. So I think Cheryl is back with us. So Cheryl, building up on what Stuart just said, what just happened here, could you please provide us with some further insights on female leadership and effectiveness and the topic we just talked about, please?
Well, thank you, Marie, and thank you, Stuart. And I think it was very interesting watching the group dynamics start to build. And as Stuart mentioned, watching the group culture start to emerge, because that's what happens. A new group starts to develop its own norms. But I think it's really interesting. That's just to build on Stuart's piece. But I'll go back to what I was going to introduce earlier. Just some interesting research on, okay, I had it up here, of course. Just some interesting research on regarding females or women in leadership. Okay, here we go. Is this it? Yes, this was it. Okay, the first piece of research that we find is that women tend to prefer person interaction oriented cultural styles. Okay, and not only do women prefer them, women have and report better or more desirable outcomes. So you see from this table, this is from a study from higher level managers in banking. Women report that they are more satisfied, more motivated, have a higher intention to stay, and have higher role clarity when the culture is person-oriented. And if you contrast that with men, men actually have sort of the opposite reporting of their outcomes. Men, although they're not significant, these are not, the values in black are not significant, they are trending in the opposite direction. Okay, so human synergistics has always found that interesting. You know, why do some people prefer person-oriented cultural styles versus others? But what we usually find is that person or balanced or constructive cultural norms lead to more desirable outcomes. Now, when we talk about the cultural norms, that's the organization. But how do people rate themselves? Okay, how do people interpret their own styles? So one of my students did a study looking at looking to see if there were any differences in the ratings, in the personal style ratings between men and women. And traditionally, results for men and women on human synergistics materials are quite similar rather than different. And this is by design, because we designed the materials to be relatively consistent between the two groups, not to have a bias toward males or toward females. And nevertheless, we do tend to consistently find two major differences. Come on now, there we go. Okay, females tend to rate themselves significantly higher than males in constructive styles. And males tend to rate themselves higher in aggressive styles. Now, although these differences are slight, they still are significant, and they show up in the developmental process. And when we look at raters rating males and raters rating females, we see the same pattern. Raters rate females as more constructive than males, and they rate males as more aggressive than females. And that's a pretty consistent finding. Even though it looks small in these charts, it's a pretty consistent finding. So, given these patterns, how might effectiveness levels be impacted by these preferences? Contrary to some previous studies, gender by itself did not affect rated effectiveness. And what human synergistics has found is that this is a sort of a small table, but as constructive styles increase, effectiveness increases. As constructive styles decrease, effectiveness decreases. And the difference between men and women are not significant. That's a general finding. And we also find that as passive styles increase, effectiveness decreases. Okay? And as passive styles decrease, effectiveness increases. And there's not a gender difference there. As well for aggressive styles. There's not a gender difference, but aggressive styles did not differ. High or low aggressive styles did not differ on their impact on effectiveness. Now, these results are interesting and somewhat mixed. And like I said, we generally find males and females, or men and women, are not that different. However, we did find some exceptions on behaviors. In an unpublished document, we did find differences between men and women in their leadership strategies, or how they went about, how they behaved in leading others, what actual behaviors. Now, how to read this chart. I put in a lot of information in this chart. This chart is a list of strategies that leaders can use, okay, in order to impact others, in order to lead. And along the bottom of the chart, we have the different strategies. And so, some strategies are circled and some strategies are not circled. The circled strategies are what we call prescriptive strategies, or more forward-thinking strategies. And the non-circled strategies are what we call restrictive strategies, or strategies that keep people in place, that are more, no strategies versus yes strategies. And you'll see a blue bar and an orange bar. The blue bar are the results for the females or women, and the orange bars are the results for the men. And you'll see stars. You know, I put some stars there. The red stars means that there are no significant difference in the reported leadership strategies between men and women. But the blue stars indicate that there are significant differences. And of course, you'll say, well, those are low. You know, and they are, you know, they're not huge differences, but they are significant, statistically significant differences. And if you notice that there are a lot of blue stars, that means that there are a lot of significant differences between men and women on these strategies. And the pattern, though, is what's interesting, is that women tend to be higher in the prescriptive strategies than males. And males tend to be higher in the restrictive strategies than females. So if you look at the preference for women to be in people-oriented organizational cultures, they tend to think of themselves as more constructive, and they tend to behave in more constructive manners. Okay, these results follow, is that they lead in more constructive manners, and they lead in a way that endorses constructive behaviors in others. That's what this chart shows. I know it's a busy chart, but I think is rather interesting. It's unpublished findings right now, but we're getting there. We're getting there on the publication of it. Now, to put all these together, to put all these concepts together, what people prefer, how people think of themselves, how people behave, and how people lead, we can work with what's called our leadership impact model for human synergistics. And on this chart, or on this page, you see a model that includes leadership strategies, the impact on others, and effectiveness. Because ultimately we're interested in effectiveness. We want people to be effective. We want people to be effective individually, in a group, in an organizational culture, and as leaders. So how do we increase that effectiveness? And all these topics are outlined in this book called Creating Constructive Cultures by Janet Zumal and Robert Cook. Wonderful book, definitely recommend it. So this is the model that human synergistics uses. And as I was listening to the discussion, I was putting some of the concepts and the constructs that that the panelists were discussing into these categories. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is in the model that's central to human synergistics materials is what's called the circumplex. So leaders can impact others to do things, or that is what leaders do. Leaders motivate others to behave in specific ways. Now, what most leaders want is to impact others in a constructive manner, in a balanced manner, where individual needs, the needs for satisfaction, and the needs for personal growth are balanced with the needs for tasks. Okay, so in a balanced approach. Leaders want to endorse this in others. Leaders want their reports to behave in this way. However, sometimes these leadership strategies lead to others behaving in a defensive manner, as Stuart mentioned. And that means that they want to protect their security. and they can protect their security in one of two ways, or both in two ways. One is passive defensive, where they focus on relationships and making sure that no one is mad at them in order to be effective. So a leader could behave in ways to endorse this, these feelings, or these norms, or these expected ways to behave. Or a leader could endorse being aggressive, or aggressive defensive impact, where in order to protect themselves, individuals focus on their status and security in the way they approach their tasks and approach their work. So that would be an aggressive defensive way. They defend themselves by being aggressive. And leaders can endorse any of these three general ways of working within an organization.
Cheryl, I'm sorry to rush you. Would it be possible?
Oh, am I going too fast or too slow?
To have time for questions. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, and then these are the strategies that I talked about, and then these are the effectiveness things. And there, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to rush you that much, but
No, sorry to go so slow.
We are over time, and I know that some of us are have something after, so we will just to have time, at least 5 minutes for a couple of questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for electricity going out. So.
Oh, good. We are happy to have you here. It was very interesting, and it very nicely complete actually, and fit what we could observe before, I think. So now it's time for, let's say, a 5 minutes Q&A, and I think we've got a question already from Paula, who is asking us, and I think more precisely for our 5 guests, whether some historical events that happened in the last years, for instance, the Me Too movement, and more recently the election of Kamala Harris, had some impact on the perspective of female leadership. And whether related to this event, you have noticed any change in your professional experience with regard to how female leadership is perceived, maybe?
I can answer to that partially. I think Me Too just put in place some rules, or remind rules that should happen since a long time ago. So I don't think it's going to change anything in the leadership of women. Kamala Harris, of course. But I think what will change a lot in the companies themselves, or in the presence of female as part of the leadership team, is more, I would say, the positive discrimination that you can find in some laws in some countries, where you must have a certain percentage of women in the boards. I'm not a big fan of the positive discrimination, but I just doubt that when you have only few women part of the boards in the big companies that you have everywhere in Europe, it's only because you have only few women that are skilled for that. So unfortunately for me, it has to go through a positive discrimination. And I just wanted to give briefly an example. Within our division over the past 4 years, we had a woman as European president. When she arrived in the leadership team, there was only 1 woman out of 10 people in the leadership team. And of course, it was the lady in charge of human resources, like usual or nearly usual. And when she left, there were 4 women, one as VP for sales, one as a VP for everything linked to purchasing and suppliers relationship, and herself, plus the HR one, so the HR lady. So I've asked her, how did you make that? And she said, the only thing I've asked to HR is to provide me more diverse profiles than what they did in the past. So in the past, they were always providing to her profile with men from a certain age, exactly the same caliber, the same kind of skills and the same kind of profiles. And she has asked for a more diverse profile. And she told me, well, I didn't take this woman because they were women. I just took them because they were the best one for this role. I've just asked for a more diverse profile proposals. That's all from my side.
And maybe building a little bit on that, I know that within our company, from an HR perspective, we try also now to make our, let's say, recruitment, so job openings, let's say, gender neutral in the way that the wording is done, in the way that let's say it is described what kind of job it is. So I know within our company, HR is really trying to also make sure that women do react on the job openings and not think, okay, well, this list of requirements, as you already pointed out, I mean, 50% I'm not going. So I think that is also changing a lot. So the pond in which we can, more fish is getting bigger from that perspective. And I think that is also a very good way of looking at how do you get more diverse people in, because I mean, one way or another, you need, what you already said, you need more people to choose from in order to have the people go up, let's say, in the organization.
Great, thank you.
Plus, if I may add something again, maybe just indeed as well, the fact that we all realize that we need diversity. I think just realizing that and asking women sometimes as well to say, like, don't you think you would be good in this position? Some people will stand up by themselves, others are too modest to think that they can do the job, and they just need a couple of, come on, you can do it. They need stimulation, and that is fine too. And I think with that we'll get to a bit more diversity, because all women also, that would not be fine, but it's definitely coming at that diverse culture.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to react, or? Okay.
May I say something, maybe?
On the contrary, and thank you for being here.
I've in the discussion between the women, I wrote down two words, which is modesty and self-confidence. And I think the relation between men and women on self-confidence is similar, but not on modesty. I think in general, men have a bigger ego and will jump easier into an activity than a woman who is more modest in what her skills and competencies are concerned. In general, I say. And I attended a few years ago a workshop in San Francisco, which was given by Edgar Schein, and he was talking about humble leadership. Yeah. So I think the future is for humble leaders and is for women. That's my firm belief. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Rana, for your input. Anyone else wishes to
But humble leadership does not mean passive leadership.
No, that's no. No, that's something
it's
different.
Balanced leadership. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm really sorry. To be honest, I had written at least 10 questions to ask to all of you, but unfortunately, we have to stop there. We are already 15 minutes over time, and some of us, I have to go personally. But to briefly maybe wrap up the session, first of all, thank you so much again for our 5 guests for being here today. Well, it's really nice meeting you and having the chance to listen to you based on your experience on this discussion on this very important topic. I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much again to Stuart, Cheryl, Valère, and Dino in the backstage for your experts insights and the organization. Maybe to wrap it up very quickly, I would say something which is absolutely not original, but maybe we still need to remind it. Apparently, we don't have to make any differences, right, between male and female in terms of leaderships. As you mentioned several times, skills, competencies, even behaviors tend to be the same. And if I understood well what Stuart and Cheryl demonstrated and explained, it's more in the manner of how they do things and what kind of what Cheryl calls strategies that they implement, where this difference may lay and where probably we could learn actually from each side, and in order to have and develop more effective leaders. And this is where I think, Stuart, your coaching, and Valère and Dino, your coaching part is so important to make leaders be aware of that and help them to move toward that direction. So thank you very much again, all of you, for being here today. It was a real pleasure. Thank you for the audience. I can't see you, but I have your name. Thank you very much for being here as well. We are glad you could make it. If you wish to learn more about leadership impact, which Cheryl very briefly mentioned, organizational culture development, etc., feel free to visit our website, humansynergistics.com. And then you will be able to choose the different languages based on your language preference. And you will also be able to have further information about our accreditations if you want to get trained in one of our tools. Feel free also to visit the Gestalt International Study website to learn more about their coaching, practicing, and the Cape Code model, and to get the chance to learn more about Sturad as well. Thank you very much again, all of you. I wish you now a lovely day, afternoon, evening. Take care and stay safe. This is what is important right now. So thank you so much again, and hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great. It's only us now. Everybody has left. We are only the 5 of us.
I apologize so much for that. That's just.
You mean you're not an electrician?
No, well, we've been having windy conditions here, and you know, things were okay overnight. So, you know, we were losing electricity every now and then and having brownouts. But overnight everything was okay. But then all of a sudden I had a brownout and I lost internet access, and that was it. I apologize so much. Of course, right at the time.
Marie could manage, and we could.
Yes, I know Marie.
No,
she's unbelievable. Marie is unbelievable.
Thank you. Wow, it was rough to say. Thank you so much. And don't worry. I mean, again, we all understand what it is, right? I think we are all used to that. So
yeah,
you know, Marie,
and I'm wordy. Sorry about that. I'm wordy. So
you know, Marie, the risk is that you will be asked again and again to do this, huh?
Yeah, right.
So
how do you feel about it?
No good deed goes unpunished, Marie.
I accept that, Chris.
Are you satisfied with what happened? What would you say, Stuart, Cheryl?
Well, I would really say that that's more important question for you. I mean, I did what I could do in a short amount of time. I could, and I think it was true about how they were being together. I didn't have a sense one way or the other whether it fit into what your intention was. I was trying to give feedback from an affirmative what is and what could be rather than what was wrong. And I don't know as an observer whether that, I really one way or the other, whether that message caught with them, that that it wasn't about criticism, it was about noticing what they were doing and what they could add.
I can give some feedback, because this is the second time that we meet each other on screen together with our 5 lady leaders. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one of them, which is still in a coaching with me, sent me a mail, I think yesterday, that already between us, she felt a great confidence. Yeah. Trust between after a few, well, half an hour that we sat together and discussed. So if you mentioned that as an important issue in giving feedback, the trust between, I got that feedback from one of the participants as well. I had already that feeling. Yeah. So
good.
So that's great. I think. Yeah, that's great.
Well, and I also noticed how wonderful Juliana is. She's very impressive. Well, again, I've noticed it before. It's just reinforced. Juliana. But Stuart, I do want to say that I really liked how you gave feedback. I think that was very instructive, because, you know, nothing was really went wrong with the interactions, right? You know, and so and a lot of times people have trouble giving feedback when nothing is outrageously wrong, like someone yells or whatever. However, you balanced, you led with the positive, and then you said, okay, well, then this is where we can develop we have this developmental opportunity. Look at
Well, I will
and
tell you,
I think you offered the terms and the words and the approach that is helpful in not only giving feedback, but receiving feedback.
so I'll tell you that even if somebody had yelled at the risk of being too cute here, I would have pointed out with a competency.
Right.
Yeah.
But thank you. That was kind of you, Cheryl. And that